The first cut came not from a knife, but from a notification. It sliced through the humid, silent afternoon in Fatima's one-room apartment in a Jiginal, where the scent of yesterday's fry lingered and the fan clicked with every labored rotation. Her phone screen lit up. A beacon from another universe. It was a video from Zainab, her university roommate, the one who used to borrow lecture notes and beg for groundnut oil. The thumbnail alone was an assault. Zainab, a vision in blinding white, standing before a golden door that looked like the entrance to heaven itself. Fatima's thumb hovered for a moment, a silent war between curiosity and self-preservation before the pressure won. She pressed play. And for the next 4 minutes and 33 seconds, her world shrank to the size of her cracked screen, dissolving into a symphony of everything she did not have. The video was not a mere recording. It was a cinematic declaration. Drone shots swooped over the grounds of the emir's palace, where the wedding was being held. The groom, Tunde, the king, Adaimi, arrived not in a car, but in a horse-drawn carriage made of what looked like solid silver. The bride's train, held by 10 uniformed flower girls, seemed to stretch for half a kilometer of pure Swiss lace. The commentator's voice, slick and excited, narrated the price tags like a stock market report. The bride's veil, hand-embroidered in India, a cool 15 million naira. The groom's abada, woven with real gold thread, 10 million. The cake, a replica of the Burj Khalifa, flown in from Dubai. Each figure was a nail hammered into Fatima's reality. She watched, her breath shallow, as Tunda sprayed not naira, but a confetti of $100 bills, creating a blizzard of green over the cheering crowd. The comment section below was a temple of worship, a digital chorus that echoed in Fatima's skull long after she closed the app. Goals af, one read. If he can't do this for you, my sister, he is just a boyfriend, not a husband, declared another. A particularly vicious one stated, some girls will accept plastic chairs and Fanta and call it love. May God save us from poverty mentality. Fatima's own engagement ring, a simple silver band her fiancé Sadiq had saved for 6 months to buy, suddenly felt like a shackle, a public announcement of her inadequacy. She curled her fingers into a fist, hiding it, as if the ring itself could hear the mockery. Meanwhile, in the penthouse suite of the Grand Towers Hotel, overlooking the Lagos skyline like it was a personal possession, Zainab Adaimi scrolled through the same comments, a slow, satisfied smile playing on her lips. Her makeup artist was carefully removing the last of the glitter from her face, but the glitter in her eyes was internal, born of validation. The video had over 1 million views in 12 hours. Blogs were writing think pieces titled Zainab Adaimi Redefining the Nigerian Wedding Standard. Her phone buzzed incessantly with congratulatory messages from people she hadn't spoken to in years. This was more than a marriage. It was a coronation. She had not just married a man, she had married an idea, the idea that her worth was now quantifiable, visible, and enviable. Her husband, Tund, was on the balcony, speaking in loud, confident tones into his phone. Yes, the deal is closed. Tell them the king has delivered. She didn't listen to the specifics. The specifics were the new Range Rover autobiography being delivered tomorrow, the bank alerts that never ceased, the deferential bow of the hotel manager. She had asked about his business once, early on. He had waved a manicured hand, dripped in a Patek Philippe, and said, import, export, big deals. You don't need to stress your pretty head, my queen. Your only business is to shine. And shine she did, blindingly, reflecting a light whose source she never questioned. Sadiq found Fatima later that evening, not on a balcony with a view, but on the narrow concrete steps leading to their rooftop, where the laundry hung like defeated flags and the sound of generators was the city's true heartbeat. He saw her posture, the hunched shoulders, the phone clutched tightly in her lap, and knew. He had seen the video too, shared in his own brother's WhatsApp group with captions like, see how men who are real do it. He sat beside her, the warmth of his body a familiar anchor in the cooling night. He didn't speak for a long time. Just let the city's noise fill the space between them. Fatima, he finally said, his voice a low rumble that competed with a nearby generator. Look at me. When she turned, the streetlight caught the unshed tears in her eyes, turning them into pools of liquid gold. His heart clenched. I have watched that video, he admitted, and I have counted the cost, not in naira, but in shame. The shame I feel for not being able to give you that spectacle. He took her hands, her small, soft hands in his larger, calloused ones stained with grease from the auto repair shop where he worked. I cannot give you a palace. I cannot give you a carriage. I cannot give you a dress that costs more than my father earned in his lifetime. He paused, gathering the words he had practiced in his head while tightening bolts and changing tires. Did that, but let me tell you what I can give you. I can give you a key. Not to a penthouse, but to a home we will own. one concrete block at a time. I can give you my time, every second of it, not divided between you and other women or secret deals, but wholly yours. I can give you honesty so solid you could build a house on it. Our wedding, my love, will not be in the newspapers. It might even be laughed at. The word hung in the air, bitter and true. But our marriage, he said, his voice gaining a fierce, unshakable strength, will be a fortress, and I will spend every day of my life being the man who guards it. Fatima listened, and the war inside her raged. On one side stood Sadiq, his love as real and tangible as the calluses on his palms. On the other stood the specter of Zainab, the chorus of societal approval, the fear of her mother's disappointed sighs, the dread of becoming a punchline in a group chat. I love you, Sadiq, she whispered, the words choked. God knows I do, but I am afraid. I am so afraid of their laughter. The planning stages laid bare the chasm between their worlds. Zainab's wedding planning was conducted by a team, a celebrity planner from South Africa, a designer from Paris, a florist from Kenya. Meetings were held in five-star hotel lobbies over champagne. The mood board was not a board, but a digital, immersive experience. The theme was celestial royalty. Every decision was filtered through one lens. How will it look online? The cost was irrelevant, Tunda simply said. Make it happen, and magically, it did. Fatima's planning was a notebook stained with tea rings, filled with her tight, careful handwriting. Venue options were the local community hall versus her uncle's larger compound. The catering quote from Mama Ayabo, who did events versus doing a contributory system where aunties would cook. The dress was a choice between renting a slightly used one from Belogan Market or having a tailor make a simpler version. Every decision was a calculation, a subtraction from their meager savings, a negotiation between desire and survival. Her mother's calls were a weekly audit. Fatima, have you seen what Zainab posted? Her aso ebi is lace from Switzerland. Omo, what are you people using? Let it not be Ankara, I beg you. Have some shame. The traditional weddings were a study in contrast. Zainab's Iroko and Igba Nku ceremony was held at a luxury resort transformed into a mini Yoruba kingdom. There were 15 different aso ebi styles for different guest tiers. Cultural troops were imported from 3 different states. The gifts presented were in giant, ornate boxes. The event was live streamed on a dedicated YouTube channel. Zainab, sitting on a throne-like chair, felt like a queen receiving tribute. The noise was deafening, a glorious, expensive noise. Fatima's own traditional ceremony was in her hometown village, under the large, ancient mango tree in her father's compound. The chairs were plastic, the canopies were faded, but the air was thick with genuine, unperformed joy. The music was from a local band that knew every family member's song. The gifts were presented in humble trays, but with heartfelt blessings. Sadiq's family came with simplicity and respect. When he knelt to pay her bride price, it was a modest sum, but he did it with a dignity that made her father nod in deep approval. There were no drones, only the buzzing of real bees in the mango tree. It was authentic, it was warm, and to the outside world, it was utterly invisible. The white wedding days arrived, bearing the weight of their respective worlds. Zainab's was at the National Cathedral. Her dress weighed more than a child, its crystals catching the light of 1,000 chandeliers. The walk down the aisle felt like a red carpet premiere, flashbulbs popping, guests weeping performatively. The reception was a concert featuring 3 A-list artists. The cake was so tall it needed its own scaffolding. The hashtag Royal Tundizi was the #1 trending topic in Nigeria. She was the star of a show whose ticket price was a lifetime of performance. Fatima married Sadiq at the modest registry office, her simple, elegant dress made by a kind tailor who gave her a discount. Her bouquet was of fresh local flowers from the market. The only photographer was Sadiq's cousin with a decent phone. The reception was in the community hall, decorated with crepe paper and hope. The music was a J with one speaker who sometimes scratched the CDs. The cake was beautiful and tasty, made by a neighbor. When they danced their first dance, a slow, swaying number to an old love song, Sadiq whispered in her ear, "This is our truth, and it is beautiful." In that moment, surrounded by the people who truly loved them, she believed him. But when she saw a cousin filming them with a smirk, the doubt, cold and familiar, slithered back in. The honeymoons painted the final contrasting strokes. Zainab's social media became a postcard from paradise. The Maldives, Paris, Dubai. Captions spoke of God's faithfulness and living my best life. The subtext was clear. This is what you should aspire to. Tund was often absent from the photos, on business calls. The luxury was relentless, a beautiful, isolating bubble. Fatima and Sadiq went to the Obudu cattle ranch, a modest but lovely place. They shared a small cottage. They hiked, talked for hours, and wrote their 5-year plan in a joint notebook. They laughed until their stomachs hurt, with no camera to capture it. They built a memory that was solely theirs, uncurated, unposted, and therefore utterly real. It was a foundation, not a facade. Back in Lagos, the rhythms of their married lives set in. Zainab's life became a full-time job of managing the illusion. Her Instagram was a catalog of designer hauls, luxury spa days, and casual lunches at places where the menu had no prices. The pressure to constantly top herself was exhausting. Tunda's wealth was volatile. Some weeks the alerts flooded in. Other weeks he was tense, snapping about cash flow and enemies. He began to travel more, his explanations vague. The questions from her own family started. Zainab, this your husband? What is his company's name? We want to check website. She would change the subject. The foundation of her palace was beginning to feel like sand. Fatima and Sadiq's life was a shared Excel spreadsheet. He took on extra mechanical jobs at night. She started a small online business selling homemade spices and dry oji. Their date nights were beans and plantain at Mama Chuka's stall, talking about their dreams. They saved every extra naira in a land fund jar. It was hard, often exhausting. Some nights, Fatima would lie awake, and the ghost of Zainab's crystal dress would flicker in her mind, accompanied by the echo of mocking comments. The what if was a persistent nagging shadow. But then, Sadiq would turn in his sleep, throw a protective arm over her, mumbling her name, and the shadow would retreat. His presence was his most consistent promise. The unraveling for Zainab began not with a bang, but with a series of silences. A promised shopping trip canceled last minute. A credit card declined at a boutique, a first. Tunda's phone, which used to ring constantly, now went straight to voicemail for hours. Then, the strange cars started appearing outside their gate. Men in plain clothes asking for Al-Haji. The house help whispered about frozen accounts. The fear was a cold, creeping vine climbing up her spine. The performance was becoming impossible to sustain, but the audience was still watching. For Fatima and Sadiq, the grind was yielding slow, steady fruit. Sadiq's reputation for honesty and skill led a major logistics company to offer him a permanent, well-paid position as head of their vehicle maintenance unit. The offer letter, with its figures, made them hold each other and cry tears of sheer relief. Fatima's spice business got featured in a small food blog, and orders tripled. They moved from their single room to a proper 2-bedroom apartment in a safer, quieter part of town. They bought their first real sofa. It was secondhand, but it was theirs. They celebrated with a homemade meal, their joy a private, sacred thing. The collapse of Zainab's world was a public execution. It happened on a Tuesday. One moment she was posing for a picture with a new bag. The next, her gates were being broken down by men with FCC vests. It was a blur of shouted questions, of jewelry being bagged, of laptops seized. The news broke online in real time. Fraud kingpin arrested. Tunda the King Adeyemi nabbed by Isasi in Banana Island mansion. Suspected N3 billion Ponzi scheme. The details were grotesque. The lavish wedding, funded by the life savings of a retired army colonel. The Dubai trips, paid for by a market woman who invested her entire widow's pension. The Range Rover, collateral for a loan taken in the name of a dead man. The social media turned on her with vicious glee. The same commenters who worshipped her now called her fraud queen, Ponzi wife, Yahoo first lady. Her photos were screenshotted and mocked. Brands issued statements severing ties. Her friends' numbers were suddenly unavailable. The bank came for the house, the cars, everything. She stood on the sidewalk, clutching a single Gucci suitcase, soon to be confiscated, filled with clothes that had no place in the world she was about to enter. The bubble had burst, and she was drowning in the harsh, unfiltered air of reality. On the day Zainab was giving her first harrowing statement to FCA 2 investigators, trying to prove her ignorance, Fatima and Sadiq were standing on a bare plot of land in the suburbs, the deed clutched in Sadiq's hand. The sun was harsh, the land was untamed, but it was theirs, paid for in full. No debt, no fraud, just the honest sweat of 5 years of relentless choosing. Sadiq drove a stake into the ground, marking where their living room would be. "This," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "this is the first page of our real story." They shared a kiss, their future written in the red earth beneath their feet. 5 years later, the trajectories were fixed. Zainab, now using her maiden name, lived in a cramped 3-bedroom flat with her mother and younger siblings in Ibadan. The glitter was gone, replaced by a permanent tiredness around her eyes. She worked as a receptionist at a small clinic, her beauty now faded and without armor. She saw Fatima sometimes, not in person, but online. Fatima's homemade delights and catering was now a registered brand with a small factory outlet. The post showed Fatima, slightly older, her beauty softer and more grounded, at charity events feeding orphans, or with her 2 children, or beside Sadiq at the opening of their second auto parts shop. There were no designer labels in sight, only the quiet glow of tangible achievement and peace. The contrast was a bitter pill Zainab had to swallow every day. The final scene was not a dramatic confrontation. It was at a large wholesale market in Lagos. Zainab was there to buy cheap bulk rice and beans for her family. She was haggling over a few hundred naira, her shoulders slumped under the weight of her reality. Fatima was there too, in a simple but quality linen dress, inspecting grains of pepper for her business, discussing large orders with a supplier. Their eyes met across a sack of onions. A decade of history passed between them in that silence. The envy, the pity, the vastly different choices, the cruel irony of their fates. Fatima offered a small, slow nod, not of triumph, but of a profound, hard-won understanding. Zainab, after a painful pause, gave the faintest nod back, her eyes quickly filling with a shame so deep it was beyond tears. She looked away first, disappearing into the market's crowd. That evening, Fatima sat on the veranda of the house they had built on that bare plot of land. Their children played noisily inside. Sadiq joined her, handing her a cup of tea. "You're quiet," he observed. She leaned into him, the solid, unwavering pillar of her life. "I was thinking about measurement," she said softly. "We spend our youth measuring love by the weight of gold, the size of a hall, the roar of a crowd. We think a loud wedding means a strong marriage." She took his hand, tracing the lines of his palm, the map of their journey. But the true measure is in the quiet moments like this, in the safety, in the peace, in the knowing that what you have was built, not borrowed, that it can't be taken away by a knock on the door. Sadiq kissed her forehead. "They had a rich wedding, Fatima, but we," he said, looking at their home, their children's shadows dancing against the curtain, "we have a rich life, and it's only just beginning." Dear viewer, the world is loud with the spectacle of the rich wedding. It will shout from every screen that your value is determined by the cost of your cake, the fame of your performer, the designer of your gown. It will try to shame your simple ceremony, your modest ring, your heartfelt vows into something less than. It will call it a poor wedding, but you must learn to hear a different sound. The sound of a saved naira dropping into a jar for a home. The sound of quiet conversation planning a future. The sound of a promise made without the pressure of an audience. That is the sound of true wealth being laid, brick by humble brick. A wedding funded by fraud is a palace built on quicksand. It will sink and take everything down with it. A wedding built on honesty, no matter how simple, is a foundation on solid rock. It will hold the weight of a lifetime, of storms, of children, of dreams. Let them have their day of trending. You are building a life of meaning. Let them have their viral video. You are writing a story of substance. The richest wedding is not the one that empties a bank account, but the one that fills a home with unwavering trust, mutual respect, and a love that grows deeper long after the last guest has forgotten the color of your ASO AV. Choose your partner wisely. Choose your values fiercely, and build. Build in silence. Build with integrity. Build together. For in the end, life does not ask you how your wedding looked. It asks you how your marriage lived. And that, my friend, is the only review that matters.